The cards?
I don't have the cards.
It was going to be a whole day.
Good morning, everyone.
Still,
Got a full house today.
it would be just.
Kelly, get on over here. I see you got a big stack for us. We've got many public comments.
Yeah, we put some people in front because they had to leave early.
Okay, great. All right, I've got a stack here. We've got 2 minutes for everyone who would like to speak, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. We'll call this meeting to order. We've got Cassandra Clement first, Bonnie Henry, and then Claudia Riley.
I'm Sandra Clement, and I'm just stopping in to say thank you so much for caring about the Burnett Woods Park and sticking with the proposal for the dog park. I think that any kind of activity is going to be good for the park. It's a real gem. We love having that park in Clifton, and we just need it to have some more activity and some good activity. So thank you for sticking with it.
Yeah. Okay, next up, Bonnie Henry.
I'm Bonnie Henry, and I've lived in Clifton for 38 years. And all 38 years, we have hoped for a dog park. So I want to thank you and thank you for hanging in here with us because it's not been easy. And I feel like it's going to be a really good thing for our community. I go to Washington Dog Park pretty much. I meet people there. Getting older, I love the opportunity to be with young people, and I meet so many. You go there with your dog, people start talking about their dog. It's like an opening conversation, and then you find other common grounds and you build friendships. And I think it's great, and thank you so much.
We've got Claudia, and then we have David Emery, and then Josephine Ward.
Thank you very much for considering the dog park, for all you have done. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone for coming today. I moved here 33 years ago, and I would push my 1-year-old through Burnett Woods, and people said, "You can't do that. There's not enough people there. It's not safe." And so I would just stay around the park after a while when I realized that they were right. Years and years passed, and I met Cassandra and Mr. Milnick, and we were talking about with their son Troy getting older, and he's nonverbal, what he loves and what his passion is when he aged out of any appropriate programs. And I said, "What does he love?" And she said, "Well, one thing is dogs." And I began thinking of the necessity of a dog park that people have talked about and how wonderful Washington Park's dog park is. And as I talked to other people in my neighborhood in Clifton, I began to see that so many people have children with an interest in just being around other people, and that there's not much that is available where you can bring someone who might need some physical help. And we all got together and began to talk about this. First, we set up a little dog park once a month where a lot of people would help sandbag and put up temporary fences. It drew so many people with small children. It wasn't just dog owners, people longing to be together. I know I'm nervous because it's been very hard trying to achieve this. And I'm so grateful for so many people who want to have something that's safe, that's lovely, that's good for our community, that brings people to Burnett Woods, that brings us together, that brings us to be supportive of people with disabilities and small children.
Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you.
All right, we have David, Josephine, and then Molly Gray.
All right, thanks for letting me speak today. You'll probably hear from a lot of opponents later today, and you'll probably hear a lot of really bad arguments. And I submitted an email earlier, actually yesterday evening, and you can go through all of those arguments, and I think I went through them point by point. And I'm not going to go through those today because I think that they speak for themselves. In fact, they often will tie them to ridiculous arguments, including the parking permit that I saw you guys just released for UC students yesterday. So I am going to go through and note a few things about myself that I think will give additional credence to them, and I'll read them for you. So I do not live immediately adjacent to the park. In fact, I live in North Avondale, and that has often been used to dismiss my perspective about the dog park. I do support the dog park, and the reason that I support it is because of the objectivity of it. I do have a dog, a small dog, and in fact, she doesn't particularly like dog parks, and I'm not particularly fond of them myself. I'm neutral on the topic. I do have friends that support the dog park, and that is also not why I support the dog park. I support it because it objectively just makes sense. I also support it because of principle. I saw the unfairness, the bullying, and the absolutely unprincipled way in which opponents were treating the supporters. Not to mention their arguments were and still are just sad. I would have been more amenable to the opponents if they had just been honest from the start and stuck with, we don't want it because we don't like it. The bottom line reality is this: the broader uptown area is currently without a designated off-leash dog park, and Burnett Woods is centrally located and adjacent to hundreds of dog owners who may live in multifamily housing who likely do not have an option to let their dogs off leash. The location, size, and mere presence of this dog park is entirely appropriate. Opponents merely want their way and will do anything and everything to get it, including making up every argument possible until this project dies by 1,000 cuts. I would like to point out that in particular, I know that the board did change a part of the project to remove some of the artificial turf or all of the artificial turf to replace it with all natural things. That has been decried as unacceptable as well. They did talk that that was inappropriate.
Thank you, David.
Sorry. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
All right, we have Josephine, Molly Gray, and then Nestor Melnick.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm here on behalf of Mount Airy Dog Park yet again, as well as Westwood Dog Park. I'm just here to say, where is our committee for recreating the things that we need at Mount Airy Dog Park? You're not necessarily taking care of the dog parks that you already have. Why are we making a new one where the polls in Burnett Woods, the polls that were taken was 85% of the people who voted on the polls did not want a dog park in Burnett Woods. And that isn't my fight. I don't care neither here nor there. But why are you bringing $360,000 to a dog park that isn't wanted when if you split that between 3 dog parks that you already have, maybe $100K here, $100K there, it would fix the dog parks that you have significantly. I think the budget for the Burnett Woods, if you are creating it, is way overinflated. And I've been fighting for Mount Airy Dog Park. This is going on 3 years for upgrades. There's been seating that has been placed into the dog park that has dilapidated, rotted. We've sent photos in, we've sent requests. Nothing is working. Why are you creating another dog park when you can't take care of the ones you got?
So, excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. Sandra.
So yeah, please take care of the ones you got. And there hasn't been any commencement hearing on, hey, we have plans for Mount Airy Dog Park. We don't need 6 months of planning now. We just need to initiate something. And I was talking with the volunteer boards last night. So we're we're done basically planning. We maybe need 3 weeks of solidifying planning to take that to bid. To upgrade Mount Airy Dog Park specifically. So that's all I gotta say.
Thank you, Josephine.
Thank you.
All right, we've got Molly, Nestor, and then Daniel Miller up.
Hey, my name is Molly Gray. I want to thank all of you for continuing to stick with Burnett Woods Dog Park. I'm one of the prime moderators of the dog park Facebook page that we advocate that this is a great project for the community. And I want to say how many people contact me directly through the Facebook page that say they support the project, that say they're afraid to come out and say they support the project, because there's a lot of us and we're so excited that there is such support, even though a lot of the support is silenced. I wanted to tell you that I see the messages and they're there and we're very excited about it. So thank you very much.
Great, Nestor, welcome.
Good morning. I'm going to keep my comments very brief. I think you've heard everything there is to hear about this. I want to thank you all for persevering through this. It's been a very long time. I lived within walking distance of Burnett Woods for almost 40 years. In that entire time, there are times that I've gone in, had a great time, but it's always felt like something is missing. And I know that there have been a couple other projects that have started that have failed, but this is the first one that is truly a parks project park. And I think that's a huge difference. And it's a positive thing for the community. I know you've heard all the arguments against it. It's been difficult as a supporter with the attacks and everything that's gone on. It's been difficult for those that are because they also have been attacked and confronted. I'm sure it's been very difficult for you as a board, for staff, for the director, for Rocky, for Joel, for everyone. So I just want to say thank you for persevering. I know I was pleasantly surprised during the pandemic when I had somebody text me and said, hey, did you know the park board just voted to go forward with the dog park? I was like, whoa, I didn't know that. That was fantastic. So I want to thank you all. I know you all weren't on the board at that time, but I want to thank you for that. And I appreciate everything that you do for all the parks within our entire park system. Thank you.
All right, we've got Daniel Miller and Eric Van Goos and then Ben Novak.
Hey there, I'm Daniel Miller. I just wanted to express some support for the dog park. I just moved back here, having grown up here 20 years, and then lived in Oregon for a couple of years now. And now I'm living just down the street from Burnout. Having a place where dogs can go is very important. I have 2 dogs myself. They're both rescue dogs. They're really rambunctious, but I still don't take them to dog parks. But I understand why it's really important for other owners to have a place to take their dogs. Because if you don't, they'll just go where you don't want them. They'll be there anyway. Providing to that specific place is critical. I also wanted to mention that similarly, we've had the disc golf course at Burnett Woods, and I think that's been incredible. It's brought more people into the woods. It's been well maintained. More and more of my friends are now coming to Clifton, coming to Burnett Woods, rather than going to Mount Airy, rather than going to Kentucky, go to Idlewild or some other disc golf course. So we should continue to move the park forward, add improvements, and build on what we already have, rather than just avoid it. So thank you.
Thank you. Eric Van Goos, Ben Novak, Madison Weber.
Everybody, I'm glad to be here to speak. I've lived in Clifton since 2004, and I have always been surprised that there has not been a dog park. So I'm really glad to be here in support of it, and with so many other people who have worked on this project. Clifton is a dog loving community, so I know I'm not speaking only for myself, but for at least a half a dozen of my neighbors who would be thrilled to use the park. There's not a lot of other great nearby options. Washington Park is small, concrete, so it'd be wonderful to have a place, for dogs to run off leash nearby. There's so many apartments, as other people have mentioned. It would bring our neighbors and community together. It would help nearby businesses. It would be a huge improvement to Burnett Woods. I think dog parks can be built safely, and I think it would help keep Burnett Woods safe. So just want to echo what a lot of folks have already said. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, Ben Novak.
Ben Novak. I been listening to everybody. Appreciate the platform. I kind of have a different perspective. I agree with everything. I feel like maybe I can use my time to go a different direction with it. Not only do I live in the community, 25 years plus, family and whatnot in the community, but also for a living, I maintain rental property and manage rental property. With that, I would bring up a couple of points where I think maybe we haven't thought of, or if we have, I haven't heard it yet. Starting to see a lot of comfort animals and ESA animals in the properties. It's a very dense community. This would make me feel better about having these animals in our properties, maybe more lenient on it. Just different thought, maybe a little more safety for the dog and the people outside the park that don't want to partake, and then the dogs within the park. Other than that, appreciate this option and this possibility. This is, I think it'll be great for the area. I do live within walking distance, would use it myself as well. Thank you.
All right, we've got Madison Weber, then Susan Burring, and Cynthia McCarthy.
Not see you past the podium, but hello.
You can come on up if you'd like.
Yeah. Okay, so,
All right.
hello, I'm Cook. So I have
Oh, you've got a little puppy in there.
It's fine. Take your time.
neurological disorder, so I do that. I'm coming today because I find a lot of problems with the proposal of this location for this dog park. And also I would like to say, I find it really, as a person with a physical disability and 2 large dogs, I find it really like inappropriate to argue that this is
location that we deserve as people with disabilities, because people with disabilities deserve to go to parks. But this proposed park is inaccessible. I cannot enter it with my wheelchair. Are me and my dog supposed to just not go? Like, this is a kind of an offensive argument when the park itself is not going to be accessible to me as a disabled person. Also, I wrote a note, sorry, I'm not prepared, so I can't. Hopefully I don't run out of time. Want to say that, thank you for letting me speak today, and I want to express my concerns about the proposed dog park. First of all, we have a serious accessibility issue, which I mentioned, and it means disabled members of our communities won't be able to use it. That's discrimination, plain and simple. Disabled citizens pay taxes to. And our needs should be prioritized, not ignored. Secondly, the location that has been chosen for this currently has been very contentious and unpopular. Many people in this community have voiced their opposition to this area. It's just not the right spot. And on top of that, it's a critical area for 3 endangered birds, according to the Audubon, 3 endangered migratory birds. So it's just, well, is that my timer? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Madison, after we finish public comment, we'll ask the director again to address accessibility in the park. So if you have a minute to stick around, that would be great.
Hopefully. Thanks.
Fine, thank you.
Handicap bus picks me up at 10:30 though, but.
Oh, I think we should have time for that. All right, if not, it'll be recorded. We've got Susan Burring, then Cynthia McCarthy, then Susan Foreman.
Hi, my name is Susan Burring. I've lived in Clifton and owned a home there for over 30 years and have always felt that Clifton is a wonderfully diverse and walkable community. We are fortunate to have a park such as Burnett Woods within the community for all to enjoy. And I'd like to thank you all for allowing me to speak today and bringing the dog park project to Burnett Woods, as well as just your service to the city. I fully support the dog park in Burnett Woods, even though I don't own a dog at this time, but for the following reasons. It will be just 1% of the park, and this leaves plenty of room for the wide array of organized activities that are so popular and currently take place there today. I think just this weekend there was a big event in the park, and I don't see that the dog park would impact other activities negatively. The other dog parks that I am familiar with in Cincinnati on Eggleston Avenue and in Washington Park are always busy. They seem like a great way for community members to socialize, exercise, be kind to their furry friends. And I'm impressed with really the success of both of those parks. Burnett Woods is a great location, given its walkability for so many homeowners, renters, students, and visitors. I myself can walk to it. I can't even, I'm sure there's a statistic out there that tells you how many people could walk to the park. And it must be a pretty huge number when you think about the density of Clifton in that pocket right there. And I know that having lived on Reeser Avenue for 30 years and I see all the dog walkers come by, there's a lot of dogs in Clifton who would love to be able to take advantage of something like that and be able to access that by foot versus having to drive to a dog park. Finally, over the past few years, Burnett Woods has become popular among the unhoused. I think I would be remiss in not saying that. And it's always been known for drug and illicit use, and that's just the way it's been, but it's posed a safety risk for me and for people I know, and so I kind of avoid it if I can. I go to UC games, but I walk around the park. Sorry. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Cynthia, Susan, and then Bob Highland.
Hey, you vote. You know this is fundamentally wrong. You did not explore other options. You did not receive a competitive bid. You revised the plans consulting privately with leaders of the dog park lobby and your contractor who happens to sit on your fundraising board. None of us were consulted. 0 out of 3 neighboring community councils support the dog park. Didn't you learn from Biggs Plaza? A pet project that already took a bite out of Burnett Woods, now activated by people your dog park group labels undesirable? Do you truly believe the dog park will be enjoyed by the handful of supporters once it is activated by people and dogs they find objectionable? I wish even one of you had attended the historical tours on Saturday at Burnett Woods' 150-year celebration. You would have seen Burnett Woods through the eyes of those original benefactors and stewards. You would have seen dozens of volunteers who cherish Burnett Woods supporting that event. You would not have seen even a handful of dog park supporters. Today would be a good day to vote no. If, after taking all the opposition, you choose for a handful of supporters who haven't raised the required funds over years of fundraising, just know we are watching you. The tree protection, the future evidence of harm to nearby trees older than any three of you together. Your place in history will be duly noted by living humans, our descendants, the spirit of the park's historic protectors who are no doubt spinning in their graves, and the creatures you harm. You can explain your decision to your grandchildren and eventually to your God when your soul leaves your body. I will die knowing I did the right thing in standing up for Burnett Woods.
All right, we've got Susan Foreman, then Bob Highland, and Sherry Frost.
I have a handout. In my handout, I have a page from the Trust for Public Land, and it's called Creating Dog Parks Without Rancor. Avoid interference with other established uses. Avoid locations directly abutting residences. Choose spots where there are minimal impacts on the visual character of a park. And avoid sensitive environmental habitats. On the front page, you can see the work that we have done to document the trees that Adolf Strauch decided to put in that location. That location is actually a signature design move of Adolf Strauch. If you're from Clifton, you know that he designed Mount Storm, Burnett Woods, and Spring Grove Cemetery. These trees are irreplaceable, as you can see by their ages, and many of them are very vulnerable to construction activities. It is true that you are not going to cut down any trees, but that does not mean that the beloved maple tree that generations have taken pictures of in the fall when it turns bright red, that tree with surface roots, which is extremely close to this 10-foot drop in elevation that's going to be excavated, will not die a slow death. Are trees important? Are they irreplaceable? Can you imagine the front door to Burnett Woods once those trees begin dying? Does anybody really want the front door to Burnett Woods to be irrevocably harmed by a frivolous construction project? Everyone who spoke in favor of the dog park acknowledged that they go to Washington Park. Why is it that Washington Park isn't sufficient? Thank you.
And we've got Bob Highland, Sherry Frost, and then John Whedon.
Good morning, commissioners. Everyone from City Hall to the local media and from the communities of people around Burnett Woods to national environmental networks and experts, everyone knows this dog park project in Burnett Woods is about people with power in Cincinnati trying to make an example. Everyone knows this because the project otherwise so obviously fails on every basic test of appropriate fit. It fails on accessibility. It fails on community engagement. It fails on ecological quality. It fails on fiscal prudence. It fails on ethical procurement practices. It fails on transparency in the public interest. It fails on best practices in conservation. Where was I? It fails on best practices for siting of a dog park. It failed on most of the metrics your own professional staff established to help you make the right site selection. It fails to acknowledge what the community at large has asked you to prioritize for Cincinnati parks at the system level, and which TPL presented to you last month, telling you is the area of greatest need, which is equity. It fails in decency and respect toward the historical character of a place in our city, and it fails to inspire. So swing your powerful bats if that's what gets you up in the morning, but just know people are most often remembered not for what they get right, they're remembered for what they get wrong. And the dog park in Burnett Woods is and has been wrong in substance and process from the start. Because from the start, the dog park project in Burnett Woods has been about nothing more than a petty chip on a privileged shoulder. And everyone knows that now. There's 5 of you here, not only one of you. Constant unanimity is not the mark of a well-functioning deliberative body in a civil society. I feel compelled to also remind you that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Those of us fighting for justice are going to keep fighting. Lost track. Godspeed.
All right, we've got Sherry, John, and then Cynthia Duval.
Morning. I'm here to speak to you today as a mother about the lack of accessibility in Barnett Woods. I attended a history presentation that was held in the lower level of the Trailside Museum. It is not accessible for people with disabilities. I took my granddaughter to a craft class in the lower level of the Nature Center. It's not accessible for people with disabilities. The restrooms at the Nature Center are not ADA accessible. I attended a summer picnic with fellow canvassers at the shelter house behind the Nature Center. It is not accessible for people with disabilities, nor is the swing set. I volunteered at Fall Fest and I visited the Richardson Monument with friends. And all I could think about was how sad it was that not everyone can make it up there because there is no permeable pathway that makes it inaccessible for people with disabilities. I attended the Art in the Park event on Sunday, and a facilitator had singing bowls in the center of the bandstand. And people circled around to relax and meditate. And all I could think about was how my daughter has been left out of all of these experiences. She'd like to be independent one day, and I'm not always going to be there to help her navigate these barriers. She'd also like to have a dog. And when I told her about the loss of accessibility to this dog park, which was the only redeeming feature because of the poor site choice, that she might not be able to get to the edges of the dog park if her dog were being attacked. And she said, Mom, I would crawl to save my dog if I had to. And I said, but you shouldn't have to. If it's not accessible, it's not acceptable, period. And please don't do this in this location. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got John Whedon and then Cynthia Duval.
Good morning. I'm here to say thank you. And I first wanted to say thank you to Mrs. Castellini for bringing Terry Francona to Cincinnati.
She's pretty excited about it.
Thank you so much. My family and I have lived in Clifton for over 20 years, and during that time, quite honestly, I can't remember Burnett Woods being a place where people would feel safe and welcome. And it was said earlier today, and many women I know don't consider walking through Burnett Woods because they don't feel safe. This makes me think of Washington Park and Over the Rhine, and not long ago, the feeling there was exactly the same. Today, Washington Park, including its dog park and other enhancements, is a wonderful place for people to congregate. People can feel safe and welcome there. Washington Park is a model that many cities, I'm sure, would envy. Bringing the dog park to Burnett Woods is a great start in that direction. Thank you.
Great. All right, Cynthia, you're our closer.
Morning. Got a ground to cover. First off, I'd like to point to paragraph 11 of the settlement agreement executed in regards to Lytle Park, which requires an urban camping impact assessment to be part of the packet for projects such as this dog park when voting. And no such statement has been included in this packet or any other packet associated with the project. Second, I'd like to point to the provision in the MOU with the Cincinnati Parks Foundation, which states the board will not vote on projects which are not fully funded. That has been violated. What was it, June or July this year? Third off, there is an email dated February 14th, 2024, written by Lisa Diedrichs of the Cincinnati Parks Foundation Board and corroborated by emails from 4 other foundation board members alleging misconduct by members of the park board over an incident on June 9th. Those emails have been turned over to appropriate state and city level ethics commissions for investigation. Part of that revolves their donor and open book policies, as well as covering up an incident which occurred with Park Board Commissioner Jim Getz. So those have all been filed. I believe at least 3 of you, actually 2 of you here since Mr. Lee is not present today, are voting against conscience and in a microcosm of what we're seeing in the world today against the evidence that has been presented by your own eyes. 3 years of this. We've got pretty much
Well, according to the last list on the foundation's letterhead, less than a quarter of the listed fundraisers sitting here. This is what is showing up for support today. This is the evidence before you. In addition to all of the overwhelming evidence against this project, they have failed to raise the money for this project again in 3 years. If you are voting to keep the peace on this board, you were given a vote and a voice, not a rubber stamp. And if you are voting to keep the peace with Commissioner North or Commissioner Castellini, you might as well not even be sitting in this room. Just give them the wand and walk on. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, in addition to today's public comment, of course, we receive emails throughout the month in advance of these meetings. We review them. We receive them via the Cincinnati Parks email address, and we welcome all to continue to engage with us via those. We receive lots of emails about the dog park each month and about other topics as well. Thanks to those who have come for public comment today. You're welcome to stay. I would like to address two issues here that came up that I think warrant some discussion. Most we've talked about in the past, but we did ask that we talk about dog park maintenance as well as accessibility. And I'd just like to address those particularly in response to public comments. Of course, go ahead and do that now.
Of course. The other thing I'll quickly mention is that we actually are working on the Doris Day Dog Park, and in our report from our planning and design department, there's an update on the fact that we found a collapsed sanitary sewer in that area. Am I finding that right?
Yes.
And we're working to get that telescoped and get that cleaned out. So that is the first step, kind of the most important one. So not everything is obvious, but that's the big degraded deferred maintenance there. And that's the first thing we want to make sure we take care of in order to get that working. It's not sanitary, it's storm sewer.
Follow up.
Okay.
The existing 6-inch vitrified clay sanitary sewer is junk. So we've chased it down the hill. There's several different cleanouts all the way down the hill, as you know. They went to every single one of them and jetted up and down as far as they could with a root cutter. When the root is penetrated, they try to cut those and keep moving. And every single one they encounter, it's destroyed to the point where it is not worth trying to read. The clay pipe that they used 5 years ago, all that stuff is pretty much junk. When we come across it, you almost have to fix it always. So in that situation in Doris Day, we are going to meet with MSD. We have several of these across the system at this point. So we're going to talk about, is it worth doing what we did at Alms Park and spending $250,000 to run a brand new 6-inch line, 700 feet down? Or do we do something different like is done in our other parks, like Mount Airy Forest out at Area 23? They have a septic tank that could be pumped twice a year, depending on the usage. So we're investigating that with MSD to see what they'll allow us to do. Most of the time, it's pretty hard to get them to allow us not to discharge into a line when it's already established. But as you well know, we have a lot of different circumstances than most users of that system. So tearing up $500,000 worth of trees to put in a new line where we may just be able to put in a tank and have it cleaned twice a year, a septic system like we do in other places may be the way to go. We're working with MSD to see if we can do that broadly for 4 or 5 different parks at the same time, but Doris Day is at the top of that list. So that's where we are with assessment of the infrastructure out at Doris Day.
So we appreciate your impatience, but we're running up that hill as quick as we can.
Yeah, hiking birds are the ones that found it or
Oh,
the separate.
awesome.
So we already did. Yeah, I was just like, is that?
So if I can speak to accessibility next, if you can pull up the current plan. And the original. Do the original first. Okay. Yep. So this is the current plan we've been working on with Human Nature and our design team. We have replaced the artificial turf and the concrete walking path that we had last time with a decomposed granite, and that's that darker gray. That's a darker gray in the center. And then where D is on the north or the right
is a 10-inch curb that will cut just enough into the slope of that hill to A, maintain the slope of the hill, but then B, to allow that decomposed granite area to be as wide as possible. All of that is under a 5% slope. So while not perfect ADA accessibility, it is flat and smooth and open that allows you to get to most of the different areas of the dog park. In addition, the area with the grid on it is concrete, and that area is all perfectly flat under a 5% slope and wheelchair accessible 100%. So it's not perfect. In lots of our parks, we have areas that are on hillsides or slopes or have different topographical issues to deal with. But what we've tried to do with this project from the start, whether it was through using artificial turf originally or now using the decomposed granite and the 10-inch curb and the larger concrete entrance pad, is to make sure that we provide as much accessibility to as many people with as many different types of mobility as we can. So we've been trying to make that a key thing. In addition, while the curb cut that we've talked about in the past is not part of this project, it's definitely something we're going to do eventually. What we want to do is get the dog park in, see how people are using it. Just last night I was up there and I noticed that actually if you're kind of at the very edge on the left, right across from that is the curb cut on the other side. So actually it might make sense to put that where the curb cut is. So the crosswalk could be kind of right across from the other curb cut. So definitely something that's going to happen, but not something that needs to be part of this project. And then if you go to the original plan, we can get into this more later when we talk about kind of the specifics of it, but you can see the original plan was a much bigger plan. It was all artificial turf. It had some of the more expensive play mounds. It only had 4 trees. It actually got rid of an additional tree that's already there that we're going to preserve in the new plan. It contains some seat walls that we've gotten rid of, but we've moved the plan in, made it a little bit tighter, removed all of the artificial turf. We've added the prairie grass buffer to the outside of it. We've added a lot more planting beds into it. And so over the course of this project, we added a lot more benches in it. There are 9 benches now. There are only 4 in this drawing. So we've, not everybody's going to like this project, clearly, but we've listened to a lot of what the public feedback we've gotten. We've done 2 online surveys, and we've heard from countless people about it. And we've tried to make different adjustments and improvements to the project over the course of time. So we're really pleased with where it ended up.
So Jason, back to accessibility. Can you, go into what is considered to be fully accessible and what will be limiting?
I'm not the expert in this, but my understanding is to be fully accessible, it needs to
Go back to the plan, please.
Needs to be under a 5% slope with under a 2% cross slope. Joel's getting me trained up.
All
Or sidewalk.
5%. The 5%,
Okay.
because of adding the retaining wall,
Mhm.
it dropped everything within that envelope of the crushed granite to under a 5% in any direction, which is considered ADA accessible in this situation. A sidewalk has to have less than 2% cross slope when you do that. Otherwise, people veer in or out, it's just a burden on folks in a wheelchair for sure. So that area is all under 5% and can be expected to be navigated with a wheelchair pretty easily within that envelope. Concrete certainly is all within 2%.
And that 2% issue is one of the reasons why the path that we had developed as an attempt to broaden the access to all of the zones of the dog park wasn't going to ultimately work out. There were just some slopes in there. As you look at it, it doesn't look like it has slopes. But again, what isn't a problem to you is something you might not notice, which is why you have to have these guidelines and why you want to make it the best as possible. So Human Nature's gotten their surveying team involved, and they've helped us maximize the amount of space. So one of the reasons why the cost has gone up a little bit is that this decomposed granite surface that is bigger than what we previously had with the path and with the turf is grown out, but that growing out is part of us trying to maximize the amount of decomposed granite in this and therefore the amount of accessible space.
Thank you. Great. The other thing I wanted to address, I don't know if this is appropriately done here when we get to the dog park on the agenda. We asked to discuss dog park maintenance as a part of this project.
You'll flip to the back of your packet, you will find a nice report that Jenny did for us, dog park maintenance.
Great.
So we have 3 dog parks that are on park property. The first one that we'll mention today is Westwood Town Hall. What it says here is the tasks are completed by multiple crew members throughout the week as part of their maintenance route. Weekly inspections of all amenities, looking for damage, graffiti, et cetera. Weekly debris and litter control, twice a week trash removal, replace mutt mitts as needed. In Westwood, they've got a community grant to do that. Every other week, sweep and spray or leaf removal and snow removal is necessary. Door State Dog Park, very similar. Tasks are completed by multiple crews members throughout the week as part of their maintenance route. Weekly inspections of all amenities, weekly mowing and or leaf removal, weekly litter and debris control, twice a week trash removal. The community there uses, they recycle grocery bags to fill the dog park bag needs. And then at Washington Park, we reached out to 3CDC to find out what their situation was. They do weekly inspections of all amenities, again, the same. Weekly litter and debris control, daily trash removal there. Washington Park's a little bit higher traffic. They replace the mutt mitts as needed, and then snow removal is necessary. There, they've got the kind of dog water fountain on the west side of the park, and that's cleaned and sanitized as needed. And then the end, it summarized and it says extra expense is minimal since the crews are servicing these areas. Mount Airy is a standalone park, so that has a slightly higher cost, but it fits within what our crews are already doing. Replacement dog waste bags, it says can be very pricey. Part of that is if you get the branded ones, mutt mitts are the most expensive kind. Part of that is we have a lot of dog bag holders throughout the park system, right? The dog parks account for a fraction of the overall dog bags throughout the system. And so we as a park system that has 5,000 acres, we spend a decent amount of money on that. But it's something that Jenny notes here that we are going to look at potentially seeing if there's grant opportunities in order to help with that. I mean, mostly what I would summarize as just, there will be extra operating costs for adding an amenity. The same way if we, one day we hope to add a playground at McFarland Woods in Mount Airy, that will have, currently that's a field that we mow once a week. Once we have a playground there, there's going to be more people there. There's going to be more trash there. There's going to be more usage and things that happen there, and we'll clean up. We inspect the Millionaires Club or the playground or Trailside or the lower level shelter there at Burnett Woods, and when we have reports of stuff, we clean them up. If we need additional, obviously there will be many eyes on this dog park and we'll want to keep it especially clean. And if we need to have additional support for that, we have the bandwidth within our seasonal staff to make sure that we've got the bandwidth to keep this dog park looking good. And I'm happy to answer any questions about how we do all that.
Thank you. With that.
Just really quick, circling back to the accessibility then, if I can. I was just wondering, is it 100% accessible? Like
The entire park isn't. There's a part that's sod on the outside.
I don't understand why you can build a new amenity that's not completely gate compliant.
I mean, I totally understand your concern.
Okay.
We appreciate your comments. Thank you. I think we are ready to get on to our agenda now. We've got meeting minutes. I know we had Kick on the line. Is he still with us? Okay, great. Good morning, Kick. All right, since Kick is on the line, we roll call votes. And I think for the minutes approval, we need to do such. We have the September 19th minutes in our package. Do I have a motion to approve?
Approved.
Second.
Right.
President North,
Yes.
Vice President Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Castellini,
Yes.
Commissioner McCallum,
Yes.
Commissioner Nair.
Yes.
Great. Great. Cool. You're up. Welcome.
Morning, Commissioners. If it's okay with you, we could just jump to the action item for Alt Park. That's the only one I think I have to present this morning. As far as I've been told, fundraising has been complete for that. We're excited to be able to go ahead and begin moving towards building this park. So included in your packet is the overall, I put two pictures in there, I believe. One shows the updated layout of all the new equipment, everything that's going in there. Some of the pieces have surfacing underneath of them, but largely the whole park will remain chips, other than where those bases need that and where those pieces go around like that. There is an accessible piece as you can see, up above the existing medallion. That one comes right off of the edge and is accessible. So most of this is included in the renderings there. There's one change just to point out to you, the original scope of work in the main, they call that. And the main powerscape structure was shown with a curve in it. That's like a sensory wave, so that teaches kids how to use both their hands and their legs moving through one of those things. It had a curve in it essentially to begin with, and now it's straight because that curved piece had a bad connection and they discontinued the model. So that's the only change in this rendering that you're seeing here, other than what you've been presented with in the past. I believe our action item is to recommend acceptance of this design at a price of $374,087.22, and that's to DWA Recreation. Procure all the play pieces and install everything that you see before you in this. Do you all have any questions about this?
I just would make one comment on page 46. I want to go do that.
You can, Susie, you can.
I should
Be there with our cameras.
I should note, we're joined by Eric Dittmer from All Park Advisory Committee. Eric has been kind enough to bring us a check today. They've been an active part of applying for and receiving this grant from the state capital budget, working with us to do community input and to get come up with this plan. And then lastly, doing a pretty awesome fundraising campaign. I'd like to introduce Eric to Hedda, who's sitting right near him, who is the person that takes the checks for us. So that's a very important relationship. I should note that similar to the Burnett Woods Dog Park, this is a project that evolved as we worked with the community and as we got input. Originally, this giant climbing apparatus wasn't part of it. We had a different climbing structure, but the community really liked this when they saw this as an option. And in addition, when we first put it online, we put it online for, let's vote on what the color scheme is, because we've worked very closely with the APAC to like come up with the actual elements. But we also asked for feedback. And one of the things we heard over and over again in the feedback was, don't cut down those two beautiful trees, which made us realize we had to have the trees rendered into the drawing, because until they were in there, no one was going to trust us that we weren't cutting them down. And B, folks wanted to make sure we maintained the number of swings that are currently there. Swings, well, they feel old fashioned. We all did swings when we were little, but we didn't get to climb this thing. Swings are still one of the most used and important things there. That's something we heard consistently through the feedback. So they moved things around. If any of you remember early drawings of this that you might have seen last March, there were fewer swings. The big power stack thing that Joel just mentioned was in a different position, and that climbing thing was off to the left a little bit in that photo, but we changed it around, added more swings in order to meet that community feedback. So.
Can't wait.
I mean, talk about apple pie, right? This is outstanding. This is going to be the site of countless play dates, countless birthday parties, connecting with their families. It's just, thank you so much. To raise this money, to advocate for this project, to work with the staff to see this go. I just can't wait to see that come to life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a wonderful effort.
What's the timeline?
Soon. I think we could enter into contract. I don't know if they.
Typically then soon.
I'm not 100% sure, Commissioner. I don't know.
So if this vote, we're ready to submit all the information to purchasing. They then approve it. It gets approved by the city manager, and then it goes through kind of the contracting period. That generally is a couple of weeks. So we're hoping that this is something that we can be under construction this late or like this winter into the spring. But we also have to get on DWA's schedule.
Exactly, which I don't know. My guess would be before spring. I want this
underway.
If I can ask you a question on I reckon this is a hard bid from DWA, but we're at $374,000. I don't know if there is funding available to do this, but from time to time, certain projects, as we get into the project, some other latent condition is discovered, and is there an opportunity to include in this vote today some contingency or because I'm just trying to do everything we can as a body to promote speed and efficiency.
Commissioner, I would say that you could authorize like a $25,000 contingency. We would not put that into the PO essentially. But what we would have in reserve is not having to come back to you all for a $3,000 ask for a bolt or something like that. So
Would allow for change
as
orders.
that, yep. So we could recommend authorization of $100,000 and then create a DO and encumber $374,000 for the project and have that $26,000 in reserve.
Which hopefully doesn't get spent, but it can be done so more quickly with your rigid oversight, of course, but it just by the nature, we meet once a month. So our decision time frame, if we can increase the cadence of that, I would be an advocate of that if it's not mechanically challenging.
We appreciate that.
Your perspective.
100%.
So do we have two votes? One is for the funding and the second is for acceptance of the donation.
Well, the first is the donation. We need the money in place before we do the project. So we'll accept our check. And then once we have the check, we can then move forward with the project.
Sorry, Jason, I did that out of order. I was trying to.
No worries at all. I mean, you're next up. Those are just, now that you've talked about the details of it, now that we've looked at the pretty pictures, we've got Susie's commitment to climb the apparatus. Ready.
I will spot.
Is that a motion, John?
I would move to accept the donation with gratitude.
Second.
President North,
Yes.
Vice President Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Castellini.
Yes.
Commissioner McCallum,
Yes.
Commissioner Nyers.
Yes.
All right, and then may we have a motion to enter into the contract with
Progressive, no. WA Recreation.
EWA Recreation.
I could make the motion
Yes.
to approve the contract with DWA, excuse me, in the amount stated $374,000 with an additional $25,000 contingency to be deployed by the staff if needed.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
President North,
Yes.
Vice President Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Castellini.
Yes.
Commissioner McCallum.
Yes.
Commissioner Nyers.
Yes.
Thank you all. I think I'm just going to back up and highlight a few things and then you all can ask me any questions that you have. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First one I had just to point out is the Ludlow headquarters service garage is well underway at this point. The pictures even that I provided in the packet are a week outdated. All of the skin is on the building already, so all the metal is already up. The next step is electrical conduit. One thing to note about that is included in the packet is we've been working with the Office of Environmental Sustainability, and Crystal has spearheaded this effort and her team to add the potential for chargers within that building. So electric vehicle charging. So all we have done at this point is upsize the conduit so that if that funding is available in the future, we don't have to go back and dig up anything. We can just run a brand new wire right through that will provide that 480 phase out to that building for a level 2 charger. So that's all we did. We utilized the contingency that you already approved. It's still under that 300. I think we have about $4,000 left in the kitty for anything else that may come up, but they're approaching, getting pretty close now. So electrical, doors, all of that stuff. We've asked for an update from Bruce on when those items will be done, and we expect a response back here in the next couple of days. But next things are just building out, lighting, all of that kind of stuff, and then they'll pour the shroud around the outside. So probably construction will continue for the next 4 to 6 weeks, just with where it stands right now. But all the big stuff and site disturbances are quickly coming to an end. So good news there. More good news on Eden Park Art Museum Drive. They are quickly approaching having that wall in, and we fixed another storm sewer issue this month for on the cheap. So I don't know if you all have noticed. Yeah, that whole side was messed up. So I don't know if you all have noticed, but in a storm, that ponds down at the bottom of that hill, what was happening was the intake at the bottom had a belly in the pipe under the road. So it wasn't allowing water to run into that and holding mosquitoes, making it nasty down there. So something happened under the wall on the other side of the road to cause that. While they had everything tore up, we authorized another $6,800 change order to have them fix that belly and run that straight into the storm sewer that they were already tying into. So hopefully that alleviates all the stormwater issues that are running down the hill that have been plaguing those folks for years, as far as I know. So it's good news on that. They're continuing through December on that project, but they're speeding through things. We probably will start seeing sidewalk here in the next month. So all is moving well on that. Let's see. Theodore Berry International Friendship Park is one of the funnest ones that we're working on right now, for sure. All of the seat wall has been completed. I put some awesome pictures in the package just to show you the level of detail that those guys are doing. Bruce is doing pristine work, I'll say, on the concrete on this. So thanks to them for bringing this back to its former glory. All of those walls, you see what they're doing. That's custom. To me, that's higher than engineering right there.
It's a big project.
It's awesome. So all of those walls are complete now, and they're back at the other end of the park, starting with the flat work. So they're working on the braided brush path and putting all those stamps back in. We're going down every other day now. Even today, we're gonna go look at the stuff they did yesterday. So they're pouring that braided path back right now. I think Jared McFadden told me there was 64 concrete pours on this. And that picture Kate's got up right now, it shows them forming the first leg of the braided path and all the work that goes into figuring out how to make those angles. So it's really, really cool to see people that really know how to do concrete do it well. That one's fun. So we'll continue to provide awesome pictures, but they're rolling towards having hardscape done by the end of this year.
Who is doing the concrete?
Bruce.
Bruce is.
Yep.
doing it?
His name is Justin, so shout out to him. He's got a heck of a crew.
So they manage.
Crushing it.
quickly.
Yes, ma'am. Those are just showing what we're going through to try to match some of the markers in the existing pavement. So really, really cool stories behind a few of those. We actually went to Rookwood Pottery to get those rekilned, just to see if we could match what the original was. Don't know exactly who we're going to use yet, but 2 or 3 different options for putting those markers and designations back in the area of the park. It's really, really neat. So Ted Berry is going well. Let's see. Next one on my list to just highlight is the Smale Lot 23 enhancements. We received 100% plans for that from THP. No more comments on that. Everything was good to go. We're working with purchasing right now to get that out to bid. We've already done the DEI inclusion goals. All of that is back for us. We're working with purchasing right now and THP to make this as advantageous and easy to bid as possible. With Lidl, we learned a whole lot of things on how to do combinations bid correctly within the law, of course, but making it transparent for the contractors on how to bid this project so we get good pricing. That's what we're working on right now for that one. We expect in the next month to have everything ready to go out for bid. I would assume that we will send this out 1st of December at the latest and give the folks, contractors over the holidays to bid it, probably come back in January with a recommendation. And hope for construction in March of 2025, and that will likely last a year.
We had a really good on-site meeting with MEMI, which is the organization that runs the Brady Center, deals the outdoor concerts there, along with the architect to kind of walk through each element of the plan, not just the plan, but the construction phasing, and to make sure that we establish those bid documents, but the contract we need to do to coordinate with MEMI to make sure that we support everything they're doing, but at the same time, make the project super efficient. So everybody's been super easy to work with and it's done a super good job. So we're really excited to keep this one moving with should note our friends at the foundation who helped raise about well over 2/3 of the money for this.
Absolutely.
Well, you've covered a lot of ground as usual in your monthly report. Thank you.
Awesome. There's just one last one I want to point out, not to go too long, but you've been asking about Inwood Park a lot, and Joel and his team have continued to really move forward with this.
Park.
It's an exciting one. We all enjoy it because it gets us excited to go do this, but they've started to work on an early days community engagement strategy. They're looking at some community meetings that are already scheduled because it's the community's meeting in November where they will go, not with any plans, but more of a like, here are 8 questions or 6 questions. Please give us some feedback on this that will allow us to take in some input that will then feed into when we hire the park designer. You can see in here, I'm not going to read through them all right now, but these questions are in this report, but we're also going to turn it into like a survey. We're gonna make sure we get that to the park commissioners as well, so that you guys can give your feedback as well. So this is like, do you want to see a hot air balloon launch? Do you want to see a water slide? Do you want to see golf course? Like, what do you want to see here, right? Kind of big picture ideas. When I was in Europe this summer, I saw a really cool center of the city park that had a fountain up top that then kind of looked kind of natural. It was a concrete base, so it didn't get all crazy, but then it had like some rocks and stuff, and then it had a little waterfall to a mid-level, and then it had another little waterfall to a base level where it was a much bigger pond and kids were playing in it and it was real peaceful. And I thought on a park at Inwood on those hills. So I'm just one tiny vote, but that's an idea that if I was doing the survey, I'd be like, what about a 3-tier pond that could do something cool? So this is kind of our idea to do the early days, dream big, and then we can kind of feed it all to the planner and see what they come up with. So you'll be seeing that in a survey form that you'll get to give us feedback on.
So we mentioned a few things last month, but I didn't get to tell you all what we've been trying to do in due diligence to figure out order of magnitude for Inwood. What do we have to fix? Is something broken so bad that we have to spend $1 million fixing a retaining wall or not? So some of those kind of things we have good news on. We met with DOTE, and special thanks to Chris Hammett and his team. He's a geotechnical engineer for DOTE. Awesome. They came out, told us and showed us all about that wall. It's a concrete continuous pour wall, no reinforcement, but it's super thick. And that means essentially only the real problems are really superficial, and we can just cut some places out of that, patch that and paint that as they've done in several other places, which we can show you all. So that's one picture that at least gives you a tool to know. If you want to regrade the whole front of Vine Street, that doesn't even matter because we're going to spend $1 million doing all that stuff and tearing the wall out. But if we wanted to spend our money and focus that somewhere else, or if that's not the highest priority within this redevelopment, at least we want you all to have that in your toolbox and know that we don't have to spend $1.5 million redoing that whole wall. We can patch it for $250,000. We're trying to do several of those kind of things so that everything that we bring to you is at least feasible. And we've worked through all these issues without having to drop storm sewer 7 feet and things like that. So that's why we're bringing this to you. We want some feedback at this point. We know there's some big picture issues with maintenance, specifically the pond. I probably, Molly, you've seen this once before, Mrs. Castellini certainly, where they've come to you and asked you for a bunch of money to recalk the inside of all the seams on that pond. That certainly is approaching time to be done again, and that's why the pond wasn't filled this year. There's enough of those cracks that all the water drains out of that pond around everywhere we want it to go, and then that tears up your storm sewer underneath, which then causes a void underneath that concrete. And we don't want that because then somebody's in there cleaning it out with a bobcat and you got a sinkhole underneath of it. So looking at those kind of things, asking the community, do you even care about the pond? Would you rather have 14 basketball courts and pickleball courts there? Instead, at that level, it's like, how much effort does the community care about and does the board care about? That's what we're trying to get in front of someone that can take that master planning process to the next level, but have those big picture ideas at least vetted with the board first.
You set this date for November 14th. Is that in stone? Is that when it will be?
I think that's the community council.
It's their meeting. So if we're ready, that's the meeting we would ask to go to.
And what time will that be going on?
We will check with Kat. I believe it's at 6, but we will check. Yes. Sorry, Rafi, go ahead.
Inwood, we're looking to do, trying to get a location and time nailed down. We're looking at the 14th.
So it's not nailed down, that it'll be Coreyville? Okay, thanks.
I have one comment and one question. One is about community engagement. But my comment is we're looking at some of these bigger projects, Inwood particularly because it's a broad plan that you're looking at. I would really like for us to consider who we might partner with in the arts to determine how we might bring arts into our parks. We had Michael Coppage come in and speak to us about the parks being an ideal place for public art. And we have such a strong arts community in Cincinnati that I don't want to miss an opportunity to highlight artists in our community and also give them a platform and just create, more awesome things in our parks. So there are plenty of public art organizations, Artworks is one of them, that can help, not just with murals, but with other public art pieces. I was thinking about, there's a plaza in Paris that has these in their little pond, art sculptures in the water. And it's spectacular. So there are all kinds of things that we might consider as we plan Inwood or as we look at Owl's Nest. Number 2, this is about community engagement. These projects last a really long time. And from the first time we do public engagement to the time that we actually kick off a park can be 3 years, 6 years. And then we often get the feedback that they didn't even know about this project. Well, we started it 6 years ago. I just wonder if there's an opportunity for us to create something on our website that, kind of chronicles the community engagement. I'm not sure what the answer is, but I do want to create transparency of when there are community engagement opportunities and also make sure we've got a history so that we can illustrate that we've had a process of community engagement.
It's a good idea.
You have thoughts on that, Rocky?
We do have a section on the website for all the parent projects where we chronicle them.
Okay.
All the surveys, like for Owl's Nest, I think there's 3 of them up there that we did.
Okay, so they're in there.
The dates, and then we also include all the results once the summary data is finished.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah, we'll continue to do that. And I hear you, we were just going through this on Doris Day because we went out to the community and talked to them about what they'd like to see. And then we started getting questions. Hey, it's been 9 months. What are you guys doing? It's been a year. Is this still happening? So in that case, we went out proactively, gave an update to the community and let them know, we've got your feedback. We're working on it. This is going to be coming. Just be patient. It's still happening. So I think that's part of it as well, is regular updates as we go.
Okay, great.
As we get our feet under us, and 6 months ago now, we hired Kat McCormick away from CRC. One of her jobs, most of her job for me as an administrative specialist is internal relationships. How do we interact with the director's office? How do we interact with CEV, Crystal's team, everybody? She's doing a phenomenal job. They're starting at least bi-weekly or monthly meetings with Rocky's team just to go through all of the things we know as she's sitting in all of my P&D meetings that are coming, that are going to require CEB to interact in community engagement. That's stuff that I don't catch when I'm trying to run 44 engineering projects by myself. And that's exactly why I'm happy to have more staff so that we can do a better job of getting Rocky some lead time to get in front of these 2 years in advance instead of having half of the plans done before we ever go out for that level. So trying to make that better and getting more proactive about engagement.
I do think it's a really good idea. For Joel and I, this will be one of the first big park projects we take from kind of soup to nuts, right? We have a palette, we've got a little bit of funding, and we now have we want to kind of gather our big dreams and then put it together. So maybe there is an opportunity to do kind of a project specific page. Rocky's absolutely right. We keep all of those like Owl's Nest postings up there. Just in preparing this report about the Burnett Woods Dog Park, I just went to our page and was like, what I write last time, pops right up. But maybe a project specific page that can like summarize all of that Inwood stuff. So if you just, rather than Googling a project and then clicking on 3 different links, you could Google it and it would be a single page that would have all of that. So maybe something for us to explore as a way to kind of summarize that. And
I don't want to give them too much about park pages right now, but Clayton Belcher, who we hired 4 months ago now, I believe, brilliant programmer. We'll say that he can write and make his own computer programs for pretty much anything he's doing. Looking into something specifically for the commissioners that is an extension of our GIS map, essentially, to where you click on any geographical location that is a park and a page pops up that tells you a little bit about that park, the acreage, when it was established, significant history, things like that on a page. So you're sitting in a meeting and you can talk to this. At the bottom of that will be one link that says open projects. And it will, one of those would be the reconstruction. And then it will have a paragraph that you would see in your board report that tells you the most up to date from the project manager where that stands every single month. That's what we're trying to make for you guys. It's just going to take us another few months to figure out how to put all that together. But essentially, we're trying to get more accessibility for you to our information faster. So you can be sitting anywhere and at least have that in your back pocket to be able to talk to somebody and know what projects we have open right now.
Don't take too much time away from the work. Okay. There's a lot of work to do.
All I have to do is breathe an idea sometimes, Commissioner, and I have people that are 10 times smarter than me that work with me and around me. They take those ideas and make them. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's exactly like you said.
Incredible for that space.
Some of these larger projects.
What? The library.
I know.
Beautiful.
Oh my gosh. Great, thank you.
Thank you for giving up your beautiful office. Create a lot.
House library.
Yeah.
So that's awesome too. We have 2 art conservator co-op students from DAP right now this semester through the end of December. And they're putting us into accelerated mode on getting all of these drawings updated, getting how rearranged. So what you saw in that picture was historically, they call it Shuckman's office. Everybody says that every day, but that is what it looks like now. All those will be 3-level deep flat files to house the 120-year-old drawings we have from everywhere that we're compiling, digitizing. So as we digitize them and catalog them, they go in here.
In the
have that
library.
Yes, ma'am. And then we have them at our fingertips because they'll be in that same Cages map that I was talking about with your park page. And then click on a button and everything that's in those drawers is at your fingertips.
Outcasts have sprinklers?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Good in the man said.
Yes, sir. And that's one of the biggest reasons we're moving this is because the water in Paul's office, if you've ever been in that building, that is where all those drawings are housed now, or a lot of them are housed right there. That had a leak 2 years ago when it got super cold and we got real close to having a problem. So as my architects do, they went into overdrive trying to make sure we move the water and strategically rearrange things to the most safe place in that house. So all of these cabinets are fire rated. That's what we bought them for, essentially to do the same thing. They'll all be double protected essentially. We were going to put them all up in the base in the top. But in review of all the historic drawings for Houck, we realized the ceiling wasn't built enough to hold the hundreds of pounds that are going to be in those drawings, thousands of pounds that are going to be in those drawings. So that floor right there has a concrete floor in it. So that's a really, really awesome house. If you all haven't walked through it, we find rooms in it still. In the basement, it's crazy. So
will it be 100% digitized?
Yes.
That's impressive.
2 different ways. Matt DeBona, Chris McGee, Andrew have been working on that for a year, just in preparation of how we're going to do this. But Matt created a partnership with the Cincinnati Public Library, as we talked about, to get all of those drawings digitized essentially at no cost. So we take them apart a month and they digitize all these for us on their $200,000 scanner. They bring us back a pile. We have the 2 ladies that are organizing, cataloging those and putting them in these files, and then everything is done and they'll go into the Cages documents map that Mr. DeBona has created. So you can click on one layer within that. You can see all the parks, in a map form. There may be one red dot within that park that you click, and that takes you to every drawing that's in that, categorized by when it was. We're not doing everything. We're doing anything that is significant though. Obviously, anything from 2000 on that we have CAD for, we're creating and putting in the CAD files. This is working at the same time in conjunction with what Esri is doing, what ETS for the city is doing across the board. They're redigitizing and relocating a lot of the utilities. So the utility drawings, we can't share publicly because some of that stuff is, protected for obvious reasons, water supply units and all that stuff. So we pay the library $10, I believe, upfront, and it amounts to like $1,500 over the life of this project. So all of that stuff is being done pretty much as efficiently as we can. But in the next year, you guys will see this digitally to where you can peruse all of these anytime you want.
Awesome.
You all have any more questions for me about anything?
No. Awesome.
Rocky, for November 14th, will you be posting signs along Inwood stating that there's a public meeting about the park? Okay,
Yes.
great. All the methods. Great,
Right now, I'm just trying to get the
great.
Carol's.
Thank you.
Speak about it all.
All right.
Too bad my new office is pretty awesome too. Upstairs, it overlooks the awesome tree. So couldn't ask for a better place. Thank you all.
Great, thank you. Right, great. Once again, I misplaced my agenda here on my stack of paper. What do we have next? Oh, Derek, come on up. We're only on 3B. We got a ways to go.
Good morning. I'll keep it short and sweet. Derek gets to join us because it's not a civil service meeting. Yes, I like this. I like these days. I like these days. So currently we still hover around it's 281 part-time, full-time employees. Right now we have 4 promotions. We have 2 DCLs, district crew leaders. One is Zachary Lawson. He'll be at Waterfront. He is a current florist in the East District, so we're happy to give him that opportunity. Kelly Wanstroff, who's a florist at Water Nursery, will be the DCL for Chrome Conservatory. And then we have Lionel Coleman, longtime laborer with Cincinnati Parks. He'll be a truck driver in East District, and Lamont Calhoun, truck driver. He's also been a long-time laborer. He'll be a truck driver in the West District. And we will have around 5 additional appointments, part-time to full-time employees that will be laborers in this next month. So I'm excited about that. We're hiring a lot lately. Currently, we still have some interviews going on, facilities, DCL.
is still going on. It'll take us at least another month and a half to iron out that candidate. Then we have another DCO, Natural Resources, that we'll be hiring. Also, we're hiring for the Supervising Parks and Recreation Coordinator. That is Jennifer Harden's replacement. We're closing up that process within the next couple of weeks or so. And Waterfront will have two, a service crew leader and a laborer. We're also be hiring for Waterfront. The finance team, we're in the process of putting out a post this week for the computer systems analyst position. In the East District, we'll have 2 additional laborers that we're hiring. Overall, we have about 16 vacancies. A lot of those will be getting closed up, but I want to reiterate that as people promote, additional vacancies open up. So we'll always have this cycle of around 14 to 18 vacancies. It seems like the magic number for us. Part-time hiring is closed up. We're kind of out of that hiring. I've closed all the postings. We're now preparing for marketing and postings for next season. I have a meeting within the next couple months with all the district crew leaders on how this previous season went. How can we improve for next year to make it smoother for them? Where are those hard to fill positions? Either it's because of salary or it's just a specific need that they need. Why couldn't we fill it? How can we be a little bit proactive, whether it be marketing, considering the classification, just how can we strategically fill those positions that they have issues with filling? Overall, we're still below other departments as far as the amount of injuries we have, but we are continually evaluating our safety program. Sherry Cunningham in the HR division has really taken it and try her best to collaborate with all the districts, get them with safety meetings, evaluate all the injuries that we've had, and update those job hazardous analyses to make sure we have the right safety processes in place to keep them safe. So that is coming. Also, Parks Academy is coming. We're working really hard to get that going. It's been something since I've started, try to take the lead and get that restarted, because previously Parks had a really good Parks Academy where they would teach employees Excel, Microsoft Word, interview skills, along with other skills with positions that they would like to promote to. So to help them grow in that way within Parks. That is coming. That is the one item where I feel that I need to put a little bit more effort to iron out that going. But overall, I think we're in a really good place. I just wanted to remind you guys, we have an all staff October 24th. You are welcome to come if you can make it.
Maple Ridge at noon.
Mm-hmm.
2 questions. Explain to me classification under review.
Yes.
What is that all about?
And you're speaking to the natural resources position. So previously we talked about the arborist series that we're trying to create.
Right.
Some of those positions may be replaced with the arborist series. So I've had numerous meetings with the unions. I'm trying to iron that out. Then it has to go to council, then it has to go to civil service, then it has to get put into our table of organization. So it's one of those processes, kind of like when we had the grant writer. Well, it's just a long process. So I tried not to go into these.
And I was kind of curious, do you know what percentage of your part-time folks come back?
That's a good question. I do not.
You ever track it?
We do know those employees that do come back, and a lot of those employees are year round. So we kind of space out their hours so that they never really leave. I can have that number for you.
I'm just curious.
I know there's a large number in every district but usually they become promoted within a year or two, a year and a half. So they may be MW 1 year, the next year they're full-time laborers. We haven't really had a lot that stay on the TO as part-time.
Because it is a good breeding ground for permanent workers.
It is. Our rec specs, though, don't have a direct route to full-time employment.
Yeah.
But we're working in new classifications, we're creating like the arborist series to allow for their time in that position to qualify them to participate in that process too. So we're trying to build pathways with Jason's help to help them become full-time as well.
We call that the Jenny Mobley path.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good path.
I myself started out as a part-time employee and a volunteer, so we want to make sure we look out for those.
Great work as always.
All right, thank you.
We're getting all this great stuff done because we have great people do it, so.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, we've got, let's see, we did the APAC donation and the alt park, so now we're to foundation grants.
Correct.
Should we go
So
to?
page 53.
3. So we've got the first one, which was alt park. The second one is Burnett Woods.
Correct. So the community has been hard at work fundraising. The
We
foundation.
should Discuss the dog park totally and then
Okay.
do a donation and then an approval of the project.
Excellent. So the foundation's been working with the community to raise funds. They have been doing a great job. They have raised 60,000 so far. And so this is a grant request for that 60,000 from the foundation to the.
We had 100,000. We had already received 40 for the.
We've already received 45,000, correct? And that went for the design, to hire Human Nature to design this. And then they've stuck with us and worked through it, all the different design changes we've made. So yes, correct. You are right. This is the second donation. The first one was for 45. This one is for 60, bringing the total amount raised up to $105,000.
Great. Well, let's talk about the dog park because I don't think we'll be approving the donation. Sort of approving the dog park.
Excellent.
We've been talking about this dog park for longer than I've been on this commission. It was a subject when I came on and I don't need to tell anybody here. It's been, we've had a lot of discussion about it. A lot of supporters, a lot of detractors. Unfortunately, it's become a, contentious subject, which is not the business that we choose to be in as park board commissioners and not the place we want to be. Nevertheless, I think my position on this, I've been steadfast and it's clear that I think this is an awesome asset for Uptown, not just Burnett Woods, but a very dense area of Cincinnati. It is true that we evaluated several sites. It is true that not everybody thinks that this is an ideal site. I continue to think it is the best site because of its location to the business district and also because it has limited impact on the natural environment. It's one of a few flat-ish areas in Burnett Woods, which does create its availability for accessibility. Though nearly impossible to make the whole area 100% accessible, it creates a great deal of accessible area. Those have been important elements to this project. We have listened and listened and listened. And as a result, I think that we have come up with a really great project. Jason, as you detailed earlier, it has condensed in its scale. It's pulled away from the trees in that area. There will be no historic trees impacted by this. In fact, we're adding 4 new trees. So I'm excited about that. We've gotten rid of the turf. I want to thank Commissioner Nyer for his courage and the 10th hour, not the 11th hour, but the 10th hour to say, let's do something different. And with that, we found a solution. It does increase the project dollars a bit, but our priorities come before our budgets. And we make the budgets meet our priorities, not the other way around. So I am pleased where this has developed. This has been a challenge, not just for the commissioners, the proponents, the opponents, but it's been a challenge for the staff. There's been a lot of effort put into this project. All I can say is that on the other side of this, I'm confident that we're going to have something we're really proud of. And with that, I don't know that I've got anything else to add. I welcome additional dialogue on it.
Well, seeing that my opinion has been publicly announced. And I'm 100% in favor of this dog park. It saddens me that the folks that are against it at Burnett Woods, they keep saying it should be in a different location, but they never tell us what location. And we have so studied the various locations. I've been a part of this since its conception. And I witnessed the surveys that we're taking. I've witnessed, all of the questions that were asked and the answers that were given. And I think we've beaten this to death. And I think that the best ideas have come forward. And thanks to John for getting rid of the artificial turf, which personally I love. That's all right. And so I'm 100% behind this, us moving forward on this. And of course, it's never going to get built until all the money is in the bank and it's been certified and transferred and so on. And we all know this takes months. And that's just the law of the land, and that's the way it should be. Okay.
I was encouraged by the appearance of so many proponents today. I've said before that I was a little concerned because I hadn't heard from very many proponents. And I thought that they showed up today and it makes me feel a lot more comfortable. I know that, I'm also encouraged by the fact that we have listened, that not only have we listened, we've made adjustments and we've tried to be as accommodating as we can with some of the suggestions that were made, especially with the accessibility. I think that the improvements we've made in accessibility are really important. We are never going to please some people. And as much as we have tried and we would like to, it's not going to happen. And so I think at some point we just have to move.
Keck, I know you're on the line. Commissioner Nyer, any comments?
Okay, just go on, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest and transparent in the beginning. I was a little iffy about it just because I was learning a lot about this and how this all came to be. But, over time, I've become very vocal and supportive of the dog park. As I've mentioned before, owning a dog now, I understand a lot more the need of this space in this place. Just because, again, our dogs need somewhere to go where they themselves can feel safe and in a great place where they can roam off their leash. And I feel like, this will be, a great thing for us to kind of just have done and for our community to just come around and bring their pets and all of our pets can like hang out,
I would simply say, live in the world you've got, not the one you want. And I wish that some of the discourse had been less personal as it's become, but that's not ours to judge. I appreciate the passion of the people who are opposed to the dog park. They are good stewards of the system, and I appreciate their passion and their input, but I do agree. I think this has been vetted extensively, and I think it is time to move forward.
Jason, could you give us any highlights that are pertinent before we get to a vote?
I mentioned most of it before, and you guys have talked about a lot of it. There's a chart in the middle of it, of the report on page 54 that kind of summarizes where we were and where we got to. And so I had Kate show earlier the initial drawing. But a couple things you can note, we went from 5,700 square feet of turf to zero. We went from zero sod to almost 2,000 square feet. The planting beds went from 500, I always try to do this on classes, from 585 square feet to 752. Increasing even, 20 some here this last round. The pea gravel dropped from 590 to 464. The meadow was an idea that we got throughout the project that was added to it, almost 3,000 square feet of meadow that will surround it. And lastly, we, went from 4 trees in the original plan to 5 trees, including keeping one of the trees that was already on site. Not a huge tree, but keeping it all the same. Additional folks mentioned impact of the trees and very detailed tree canopy photo that you see. We have Crystal here with our Department of Natural Resources.
like I always talk about learning from Joel, I learn a lot from Crystal as well. As we work through various pipeline approvals and right of entries for other projects on our thing, the key thing that Crystal always talks to me about is the drip line of the, and I've heard this since I was a kid, right? The amount of branches you see above generally is equal to the amount of branches below. And the key is to look at that as we've dug into urban forestry, and I've learned more about trees and sidewalks and why biochar is so important to help those grow. I've learned that once you get so far out from the tree, you kind of pass when the roots are really big, and you start to get past where there's this severe impact. And so one of the things someone mentioned, tree canopy impact statement. I guess there's not one officially in here. I don't know that this is a major project, but I will say that the tree canopy impact is a positive because we've ensured that this project has an irregular border because someone from the Department of Natural Resources went out and drew a border to make sure that we were outside of the tree canopy. And then in addition, it adds 4 trees to this area. A total of a net 3, but one of the trees that's coming down is basically like a big bush. And so
Have you selected the tree species yet?
we have not, but we will let our team that manages that park pick real good ones for it. So that overall it's a net positive. There will be no major trees lost. We've been very thoughtful about creating a border that respects those and stays out of the drip line. You can see the tree protection that's.
Say no major trees, no trees lost.
There's one like that green tree that's there. It's like an overgrown bush. There's a word for the kind of tree it is. It's what's that? I think so, yeah. Yep, so it's not like
It's not a tree.
correct.
It's not a tree.
But so again, net 3 positive, but 4 new shade trees that are going in there. And we've made sure that all of the historic trees, so it's outlined in that report, are protected through the tree protection throughout the whole project, which we've done it. You saw we did it at the Lytle Park. We do it at all of our parks to make sure that the trees are in place. So overall, just, I think it is a better project. I think it's a project that has developed over time, is, very clearly has made some changes, and those changes come from listening to the public and from listening to commissioners and from kind of sharpening our pencils and trying to come up with better ideas for it. So
What do we need to know about the contract with Bruce?
the contract with Bruce will be for, it's in this report, but it's 401,000. 415, thank you. That's teed up and ready to go. With your approval, we can start to send that direct award through for processing. We have currently $300,000 approved for the project. And then with the acceptance of that 60,000, we'll have $360,000 for the project, leaving us 41,415 short of the total needed for the project.
So the funding source of the additional monies, which is about 42,000, that has not been allocated and approved yet, would be the commissioner's fund budget.
Could be.
Okay. Are there any alternatives that you would recommend?
So we could do it a couple of different ways. If you wanted to put additional money into it, we have, of course, our capital funding that we have every year. Hedda and I went through the capital sunset process. It was our first time through it. It happens every year around this time. Last year I followed Craig's lead a lot. This year I rolled up my sleeves and Hedda and I got down in the ditch and worked through it together. Hedda was able to identify about $201,000 of encumbered funds for projects that were already completed on time and under budget. And so we've been able to free up those dollars. So that has added.
That in our package somewhere?
It is not in the package, but we're still working through the final kind of summary of everything we're doing through the capital sunset. We can definitely get you a report on that. And then in addition, there were at least 2 projects that had been approved by the board before my time, but in November of 21, as we went through the capital process, there was a list of projects that had been funded by the commissioners through the capital process. Then in addition, there were 4 projects that were funded in the commissioner fund budget. So I guess I should say that was in August of 22, so right before I started. And 2 of those projects were $90,000-ish for the Alt Park Caretaker's House and $30,000 for an HVAC system at Bettman. The HVA system at that one was completed by facilities using operational dollars, so that's no longer a need in the capital. And then the caretaker's house, that was also kind of right around the time we had some changeover in staff. The improvements that we felt necessary have been made, and there aren't any like current pressing needs there. So we're going to sunset that back. Those two amounts, so about $120,000 total, will go back into the commissioner fund budget. Additionally, there was a line item that was appropriated of around $100,000 from the Drabner fund just for improvements. It was just in a line item. We're going to sunset that back into the commissioner's fund as well. So that's about overall a little over $200,000 that'll go back in that will then be unrestricted dollars that we can use as needed. So we have a couple different sources we could use if you wanted to close that.
What's your recommendation?
My recommendation would be to use the commissioner fund dollars of the ones we just freed up.
Fund 430 or?
Correct, 430.
And I like the sunsetted dollars more so than capital dollars that's not yet been allocated, because that's not taking away from another project or another opportunity. These were already allocated. The projects were already completed. There happens to be some leftover funding. That seems like a very minimally intrusive way to complete the funding picture.
Done.
Jason, when do you expect the project to commence and complete?
So with approval today, we'll be, just like with the All Park Playground, we'll be full speed ahead on getting this through the signature process at the city level and then getting a contract signed with Bruce. Bruce does a lot of projects with the city, so my hope is that will be maybe quicker than some of the other contracts we've done. So just like with the playground, my guess would be this would be a project that we would take a couple months to work through that process, but then we'd be starting to talk about timing of when we can mobilize for it. When I was talking to them in July and August about kind of working through some of the totals and, if the bid was good and how long it was good for to allow fundraising time, they said that once it was approved, they could start mobilizing. And so they would start their process of ordering from subcontractors, getting subcontractors scheduled and kind of start to do that mobilization. So
A little late in the construction season, but probably most of this work can be done in any time of year, more or less.
I would hope so.
Set aside weather days.
The concrete would be the thing that needs warm weather, but at this point, it's generally warm into December.
Any other questions?
Well, has Prues, right word, Prues, have they given us a timeline that they've got to get going by this time?
They have not.
The price is going up?
They have not. They've said that when we established this price, they said it was good for a while they were fully aware there was a fundraising component that had to happen after we had a final price. And so that's not infinite, but there's been no indication that there's a deadline on us yet. But they also can't tell us how quickly they can mobilize until they know that it's a go project. So we're in this middle time. But they are ready to go with approval.
Right. So we've got, I think two approvals. One motion is to accept the $60,000 grant from the foundation. Before we get to that, I want to say thank you for the work that you've done on this. I know that you hear it from all sides as well, so we appreciate your partnership in this. And appreciate the donors that have come in the past few months to bring this home. I think there were plenty of checks that were held with hesitation because of the uncertainty about this going forward. So it's been, a vote of confidence and the ability to move this thing forward. So thank you again to the proponents who have stuck with us for over 4 years, and again to the Parks Foundation for your support as well. So I'll entertain a motion for acceptance of the grant.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And we'll roll call.
President North.
Yes.
Vice President Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Castellini.
Yes.
Commissioner McCallum, Commissioner Knight.
Yes.
So then the second will be generally an approval of this final project scope. Entering into the contract with Prues and authorizing the additional funding of, do we have an amount?
It would be,
Clearly,
so it would be 41,415 and then with a $25,000 contingency, which would allow us to access, identify, and report on those funds, but not wait for a vote if there were a change order or anything were to develop.
So the 401 includes 25,000?
It does not.
Okay,
So the 25 is, we're not identifying those funds, we'll report on those, but it's authorizing us to find funds, report on how we're spending them if something comes up, similar to how we've done.
how we just did.
Yep.
The last.
Rather than, and what it avoids is all of those encumbrances that we just freed up were because we put a bigger budget into the project than we needed. And so this allows us to put the exact number in. If we need more money for change orders, we can add it as needed.
Great.
And that would be from Fund 430.
Sunsetted funds returned back to 430.
Yep.
Philosophically, I'm thinking of it as a sunsetted piece. I just think
Yep.
that's an appropriate source of revenue, and should the contingency be needed, I would think we could vote to authorize the contracted amount plus not to exceed $67,000, 66,415, which would be the gap plus the $25,000 contingency.
Mhm.
If that would be agreeable, that seems like an efficient way. And although we don't have the final numbers on the sunsetted dollars, it seems very likely that it'll be well in excess of
the 41,000.
67,000.
Will you construct that motion, please?
I'll try. Move approval of.
Use the template.
Yes, exactly. To approve the acceptance of the Bruce proposal in the amount of $401,415. And to supplement any funding gap with funds from the commissioner funds for 430 from the commissioner funds. And I guess I should quantify that, not to exceed $67,000.
Great.
Kate, is that workable enough? Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll roll call.
President North,
Yes.
Vice President Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Castellini.
Yes.
Commissioner McCallum,
Yes.
Commissioner Knight.
Yes.
Great. Okay, well, we look forward to
Onward.
moving forward with this dog park, and thanks to all who invested so much time into the process.
And I'd like to just say, I think we've learned some valuable lessons about community engagement. And I think we will be able to use those going forward to make the process a lot more smoother and a lot more efficient.
Mhm. Thank you. All right, Jason, we're on to the LWCF grant program.
Thank you. So this is another product of our grant writer, Kara, who's in the room. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources has a land and water conservation fund that does a funding round in November every year, and they offer grants up to $500,000, which is what we're going to apply for. We evaluated a bunch of projects in the pipeline for the most appropriate one, and the one that we determined was the best opportunity for this and would score the highest and fit the timeline of need and construction was Owl's Nest Park. Owl's Nest Park, as we've talked about at previous meetings, has final schematic design drawings that we've worked on with the community, 2 public outreach sessions, 3 online surveys, and we've come up with a plan that everybody's really excited about. Commissioner Castellini and McCallum were at the last meeting where there were almost no questions because everybody liked the plan. So we're in the fundraising phase. The budget that they proposed was about 3.7 or 8 million. I think that's probably gonna end up being at least 4.5. At least that's how I want to think about our goal for fundraising. So this would be the first $500,000 in for that. We would submit this in November. But as you score these grants, the key is to have an official resolution from the body that's in charge of it, dedicating to the project, dedicating that we will provide, this is a 1-to-1 match. Obviously, if we're doing a $4.5 million project, we've got more than enough match to justify this, but this is not necessarily committing the funds, but it's committing that we're good for the funds and that will be part of the project.
Awesome, yes.
We do not need to dedicate the $500,000
Right.
today, though.
Correct.
Right.
Well, again, one of the things we've learned through the sunset process is the way the city works is that once you pass the ordinance accepting the grant, the funds are put kind of as a debit on your account. And then when the money comes back in, they don't come to us. They just take that debit off your account and we're good with the city's overall finance department. So one of the things we're getting is that we have an outstanding grant for about $37,000 with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources for a Wi-Fi project we did at Alt Park. That has been completed, but until we brought Kara on, we didn't know we hadn't applied for the refund yet. So at first I was like, how can I spend $37,000? Well, it turns out it's just going to wipe us off the books over there. So that's how those work. So a little bit more insight we're learning through the process.
Great. This is a motion to authorize execution and filing of an application for land and water conservation. Do we have a motion for that?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
roll call.
President North.
Yes.
Vice President Lee.
Yes.
Commissioner Castellini.
Yes.
Commissioner McCallum.
Yes.
Commissioner
Yes.
Perfect. All right, Director, your comments.
Thank you.
I think they pay for 50%.
Well, you will be unsurprised to know that there is a lot going on in parks. Just this last weekend, as some of the commenters mentioned, we had Fall Fest in Burnett Woods. I did not get a chance to make it to there, but I was at Harvest Fest in Sailor Park, which is a really cool arts and crafts show that had all kinds of really neat crafts there. Certainly it seemed like all small businesses and local. It was a really fun day. And there's been just a series of stuff going on. There was Oktoberfest at Bellevue this last weekend. But coming up, the Crone Holiday Show is about to kick off. Solstice Glow opens November 2nd and runs through. Again, partnering with Applied Imagination this year. So these are the folks that help us with all of these beautiful natural models of buildings and important buildings throughout the city. This year we're adding CBG, which should be, I can't even wait to see what this looks like. September 27th, we had an incredible storm in the community, and our team was out all weekend taking care of stuff. Crystal's team just did an outstanding job of getting all of those addressed. We had 270 requests for service for tree damage. When Crystal and I talked on, I believe it was Friday, all of those had been handled by like Monday or so, and we were down to just one or two that were left that were kind of some problematic trees, but they just did an outstanding job of knocking that out. Can't thank them enough. New benches. Our operations and facility team have been busily installing new benches from our memorial bench program in conjunction with the foundation. There have been new benches in Eden Park, at Mirror Lake and Twin Lakes, Alt Park, French, Alms Park. These aren't the flashy multi-million-dollar projects that we often talk about, but they are projects that really improve how people enjoy the park and people getting a chance to just sit and enjoy nature. Events. So just this weekend, we got Blink is coming up. We're super excited about that. Obviously, parks are a great spot for Blink. In fact, this year, the parade on Thursday night has been moved from kind of working its way through downtown to Marion Way, which we're really excited to kind of almost host half. It runs right through a lot of park areas. You think about some of the overlooks from Lot 23 or from the Schmidlap Lawn, plus just all of the space along there. We're of course going to activate, sell some beer, make a little money. But we're really excited to host everybody down there for the parade. There's also going to be the foundation's working with our friends at Kolar Design to do a installation at Schmidlap Lawn. There's also going to be installations at Smale Riverfront in the Great Lawn. The Brady Music Center has stuff on the lawn, Pyatt Park, Washington Park, and Lytle Park is going to have an installation as well. The one on the Great Lawn at Smale is going to be fantastic. It is, if you've been down there, it is a giant, it looks like 2-3 story tall, basically movie screen that they've created down there. And they're going to shoot light across the river from Covington to create what they call a light bridge. It should just be fantastic. International Friendship Day is coming up this weekend as well on October 19th. It is from 11 to 2 at Theodore and Barry International Friendship Park. This is with the IFP PAC that is recently formed. And so we're really excited to have that back. That was moved because of the storm. Halloween, lots of stuff for Halloween. We've got a jack-o'-lantern hike with luminaries and jack-o'-lanterns in Caldwell Nature Reserve. Hallow Eve Brew Bash at Alt Park with beer tasting and live music. Friday the 25th, Hal at the Hall, Westwood Town Hall, Halloween movie, costume contest and more on October 25th. Hallow West at Maple Ridge Lodge in Mount Airy Forest on the 26th from 1 to 6. Wear your costume, live music, games, face painting, food, treats, and fun. And then Campfire on the Bluffs, which is nighttime storytelling and hikes in California woods on the 25th. As Derek mentioned, we've got the Parks all staff meeting coming up on Thursday, the 24th, from 11 to 2, but noon. We'll have some food there. It's gonna be great. A volunteer appreciation event. This is Sunday, October 27th from 5 to 7 at Maple Ridge Lodge. This is the first time I'm seeing this number, but it is absolutely tremendous. Last year, we had 53,400 hours of volunteer, which is a new record since I've been here. Absolutely unbelievable. It's valued at $1.6 million of operational support. Our volunteers are just the best. And then lastly, we have a CPAC meeting coming up. It's scheduled for 5 p.m. on Thursday, November 14th. This is in collaboration with the Parks Foundation. And the theme is succession planning for these CPACs to make sure they've got leadership kind of training in place. And so that's coming up on the 14th at the Ted Berry Pavilion at International Friendship Club. So lots and lots of awesome stuff happening.
And so. All right, are we then on to commissioner discussion and comments? Anything on your agenda? Questions, requests?
Thank you all.
Hey, all right, well, we've done a lot of talking here today, so. I think then we are ready to adjourn this normal, or no, we don't adjourn it, but we do. I'm gonna make a motion here. I move that we adjourn into executive session under Ohio Revised Code, section 121.22G to consider the employment and compensation of a public employee. That's a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we'll roll call.
President Nord,
Yes.
Vice President Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Castellini. Yes. Commissioner McCollum.
Yes.
And I.
Yes.
Now, I will say we will come back together to adjourn the normal meeting, but I don't anticipate any discussion or topics between now and then. So, great. Everyone is thanked for your time today. You can go. We'll take a